It feels like they're having to thread the finest thread through the smallest hole, followed by another hole, by another hole. I don't know why Jerome Powell wants this job.
It's funny you say that. I said he's unqualified because the fact that he wanted to be chairman again means that he didn't appreciate what position we're in. So
unless he's a psychopath.
I don't get it. I don't know that he is, but I think he could probably go down as the worst Fed chairman of all time if things unravel.
And when you say another crisis will mean they probably have to start QE again, do you think that could be energy prices getting so high that they have to subsidize energy costs?
Well, that's another reason to continue spending. So, before Danny and I were speaking about before you came down, federal, state, and local spending is 40% of the GDP of the United States. And they're cutting.
Hold on. Let's go back a step. What was that?
Federal, state, and local spending is 40% of the GDP of the United States.
So 40% of all productivity is government spending.
As measured by the gross domestic product, yep, it's government spending. Now, the COVID stimulus, the government transfer payments, supplemental insurance, uninsurance payments, et cetera, those are all running off. So you can watch in real time, the GDP is actually going lower. The government still spends more than they bring in from revenues, so the debt burden is going higher. So that's a situation that cannot endure. And the reason why I'm not so enthusiastic about the economy is that if 40% of your economy is contracting, right, the government's spending less money, what is going to make up that and grow? What of the other 60%? Is it going to be the medical industry, the oil and gas industry, et cetera? Not likely to see that grow in any way. So my guess is that if we're not in a recession, we're very close to it, and things could get worse.
40, that's blown my mind. I mean, this makes me think of what happened. I know it's an extreme example. It makes me think of what happened under Chavez in Venezuela, where I think at one point, one third of all employees worked for the government. And once they ran out of money, or once the price of oil dropped, which was the dominant part of the Venezuelan economy, they didn't fire anyone. And that led to printing money and inflation.
Right. So unless the government picks up spending, it's going to be very challenging to see how the economy is going to grow. So that's why I'm saying they're going to need to find some way to inject more money into the system in order for basically the economy not to roll over.
How do they do that? Print more money?
No, there'll be some reason to do it. Oh, there's let's send a stimulus check for people to buy gas because the price of oil is higher. Those types of things.
Huh. I do hope it's not a war.
Well, it's possibly. It does feel like we're being led down that path. We barely got out of Afghanistan, and now we're involved in Ukraine and sending missiles to the Ukraine. I don't understand, if I was Russia, how that's not viewed as an act of war against Russia by the United States. So
I think it's one of those things. It's testing. How much can you get away with? Let's push against the edge of it. Let's just see how we can test people. Hold on, 40. I still can't get over that number. Why can't the government reduce the size of government? We had in the UK recently, one of the ways to curb inflation was the government were discussing reducing the size of government. Which to me blew my mind that they would actually consider that, and they were considering something like 90,000 jobs. I don't know what percent of the government workforce that was, but essentially that equated to the increase in government workers over the last 4 years. It was something like 20% of workers. And so in my mind, I was like, can you look those numbers up?
Yeah.
I'll get Danny to check that because the numbers will be important. But it's like, how did the government grow by 20, 30% over that period?
Yeah, so that's one of the problems. Like my colleague calls it the administrative state.
Yeah.
And how do you get rid of the administrative state? And you're in there for a short period of time and they're working against you, or if you're not aligned with them, they're going to be working against you. It's very challenging to do that. And once government grows in that way, there's programs that were meant to last 2 or 3 years, and 40 years hence, they're still in place with, 10,000 people working for that program that should have been shut down in the 1970s or something like that. So it's very challenging. It becomes cumbersome and bloated, and society and your debt burden rises, et cetera. And this is all the stuff that we're seeing right now. That's why it's by far the most challenging time that I've seen in my investment career. And I think even though I was a kid in the 1970s, I think it's much more challenging back than that period of time. Back then, you could actually, the debt burden of the percentage of the economy was a lot lower. You could raise rates to basically bring down inflation without impacting it in a severe way. So I don't think they have those options anymore. Their best options is to continue to debase.
Okay, but what's the end game there?
The end game is to grow in nominal terms, the economy, and to basically pay back your debt in cheaper and cheaper currency.
So who's getting screwed in this scenario?
And anyone who's a fixed income, anyone that's on a fixed salary, et cetera, is getting screwed by that. So that's what I'm saying. You could see, if you're on a pension and you could, your food bill went up 18%. So you thought you were going to be able to live on your pension. Suddenly, wow, my dollar doesn't go nearly as much. The meat costs me twice as much, and now I can't eat meat. I'm going to, find a lesser substitute, and to get to the point where I'm not able to afford the things that allow me to live and exist and have a life.
I mean, so the wealth divide will grow though in this scenario.
100%. Inflationary period of time, the wealth divide grows dramatically. When you debase the money, the Cantillon effect, you debase the money, the people that are closest to the spigot benefit the most, and the people that are furthest away get hurt the most. And that's what we're seeing in real time.
Did you find it?
Yeah, it was, so they want to cut up to 91,000 jobs to get back to 2016 staffing levels.
Yeah. So 90,000, 2016 staffing levels. Did it say what percentage of staff that is?
Not here, no.
Yeah, but...
Let me know how they do with that.
Well, I mean, I interviewed a chap called Eric Voorhees years ago, libertarian, and we were discussing the idea of, I was trying to get him to explain to me, how does society operate with no government? He said, look, I don't even care about that right now. I just want to reduce the size of government. 1%, 5% every year, just reduce a bit. But he said, it never does. It just gets bigger.
It gets bigger.
It gets bigger. It gets bigger. And in getting bigger, you have all these other effects. You have the fact that they think of programs, come up with ideas, and probably think of other ideas that curtail our freedoms that go with that.
Regulations, licenses that you need, forms that you need to fill out. Exactly. You're spending 3/4 of your life basically just trying to comply, and things that we formerly didn't need licenses for, now you need a license, et cetera. So that's the problem. And they have a vested interest in staying in those positions, right? That's where they derive their income. So it continues to grow. So it's virtually impossible to really chop it in any meaningful way.
Yeah, when I was up in Wyoming, I was with Tyler Lindholm, and he was talking to me about all the licenses they're trying to get rid of. He's explained something like there was a license to be a hairdresser, a license to do this, a license to do that. It's form filling, it's fees, it pays for bean pushers, bean counters. I feel like government should have a budget. I feel like government should just have a budget. I have a budget, you have a budget.
Correct.
What happens if what happens to you or Mai or Danny if we can't hit our budget? We have to sell something, or we lose our house. We have to make a decision. I would love to have up in my bedroom a printer, and when I've overspent this month and I've gone out too much, had too many dinners, okay, I can go upstairs and print some money. I'd love to have that, but none of us have that. But for some reason, government doesn't, and that's a big problem.
Some governments have that.
They do?
Right? Some government, and obviously the United States has that. And you push it too far, and you debase your currency down to zero, and that's why most currencies are valued at zero within 26, 27 years. So United States has lost 98% of its value since the Federal Reserve started in 1913. It just happens to be the best of a worst. So my guess is that you keep doing this, and now you have this thing called Bitcoin, where there actually is an alternative. There's a finite number, and you know what that number is going to be in perpetuity. That's a real option, and it frightens, I think, governments around the world.